There's a certain passage in the Bible, a parable that Jesus tells, and if we read it the wrong way, it can be very disturbing to us, because it might seem to go against our notions of fairness, justice, and equality. The parable in Matthew chapter 20 Jesus tells is about a vineyard owner and the workers that come to work in the vineyard. And some of the workers come early in the day, some of the workers come in the middle of the day, and then some of the workers come later in the day. But then the vineyard owner pays them all the same amount, and they grumble against one another because it goes against their notions of fairness and justice. Why would someone who worked from the start of the day not get more money than those who started at the end of the day? But it's important to understand that the parable should not be interpreted that way. The parable needs to be interpreted in terms of a vertical relationship between us and God. The parable is really about heaven, and those of us who come to faith early, or in the middle of our lives, or at the end of our lives, we all get paid the same amount, the same reward, heaven for all of us. That's what the parable is really about. Jesus makes this clear when he sets up the parable. And we need to understand that vertical relationship and that God can give us what he wants, when he wants, and we should be thankful for it. If we're always thinking about what we should have gotten, then we'll be grumbling and we'll never be joyful. We'll never be happy. We'll never be thankful. And we won't be humble. What God gives us, he gives us by his grace. And that's the vertical relationship. And that's what this parable is really about. Jesus sets it up that way. But some people misinterpret the parable and they think to themselves, oh, well, I guess any landowner or any business owner, any employer can pay their people what they want. And it's arbitrary and they should just be happy and that's it. That is not what this parable is saying. Because there is also a horizontal relationship that we have with one another. Lots of Christian principles have the vertical element and the horizontal element. The vertical element is about us and God. The horizontal element is about us and one another and how we treat each other. And there are plenty of passages in the Bible that we can talk about with regard to how we are supposed to relate to one another and treat each other with fairness, justice, and equality. There's plenty of passages that talk about how if someone is poor, they should not be taken advantage of. If they are a widow, they should not be taken advantage of. If they are a different ethnicity, if they are a different age, whatever it is, they should not be taken advantage of, but they should all be treated fairly. And that goes with regard to their wages and their employment and how their employers treat them. There's a certain passage in the Old Testament that is also quoted in the New Testament, and it says this: "Do not muzzle an ox when he is treading out the grain." And that simply means that if you have an ox and he is plowing the field, don't put a muzzle on him so that he can't eat. Even an ox deserves his reward. Even an ox deserves his wages. When he's pulling that plow, let him eat. That's his reward. That's just. That's fair. That's equal. And we're supposed to live that way ourselves and not misinterpret a parable so that we can treat each other without equality and without fairness. We should treat each other with those things, and we should listen to passages like this out of Deuteronomy chapter 24. "Do not take advantage of a hired man who is poor and needy, whether he is a brother Israelite or an alien living in one of your towns. Pay him his wages each day before sunset, because he is poor and is counting on it. Otherwise, he may cry to the Lord against you, and you will be guilty of sin." Horizontally, we need to treat each other with justice, fairness, and equality. Vertically, we need to understand that all things come from God. We didn't create ourselves. We're not sustaining ourselves in every way. And we're not redeeming ourselves from our past sins and wrongdoings. God does those things. So we're to remember the reward that he gives us as grace, and so be thankful